All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dustin DeStefano, CEO of A Place at Home, along with Miss Natalie Watts, franchise owner, and lovely lady of A Place at Home, Little Rock, Arkansas. Natalie, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. Trying to stay cool down here in Little Rock.
Oh yeah. What is the temperature down there? I didn't even
Well, we're
ask.
going to be close to 100 today.
Nice. Yeah, we got the College World Series going up here, and Arkansas is in it.
I know.
I haven't seen how well they've been doing. I think they won their first game, but it is also 102 degrees up here. So those guys playing baseball out there,
They're used to it.
hot and humid. Well, Natalie, today we're going to talk about the topic on best approaches to discussing senior care with a loved one. To give a little history here, I've been in senior care for 10 years. I've experienced a lot of these conversations. I've used my experience to help franchise owners learn how to have these conversations with family members. And today we're going to hopefully provide guidance to those that may be looking for senior care options, potential people looking at starting the senior care business, and also any maybe family members who have no idea how to have this conversation, because it is one of the hardest conversations for me right now I'm a grandson of the person who would need care, not my mother. But even for me, with my grandmother, to have that conversation, and I've done this time and time again, it can be very difficult to have, especially if there's pushback. To give an intro into Miss Natalie Watts here, you've been open for what, 3 years now?
August will be 3 years.
And to validate Miss Natalie Watts, I believe last year, out of a couple thousand home care providers on Home Care Pulse, you finished 4th in the nation in customer satisfaction as a provider of choice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You are like my highlight. I say that probably every couple of weeks. You do know that, right? It's like, this is who you want to be. So obviously you know how to provide an impeccable customer experience, and what better to have you on talking about this subject. So we're going to jump right in, Natalie. So questions, are you ready?
I'm ready.
What does our family consultation experience look like when we meet with a family for the first time?
All right. So the family consult, it's really an information exchange session. We let the family know that myself or my Sherry will be there along with our RN. Unless it is just a consultation for questioning. 9 times out of 10, we know that the family would like to start services with us. So we go ahead and we set that expectation that the RN and myself or Sherry would be there for an hour to an hour and a half. We come to the location of the client, and the family is welcome to bring all family members, friends, neighbors. We can even Zoom out of town family members in, because this is their time to really get to know us. We explain our services that we have to offer that might benefit the client. We listen to all the family's concerns, answer all of their questions. We learn about the client and their family dynamics, as well as their current condition and their current needs. So as the family and client are asking questions, I'm jotting down information in the client onboarding packet in the appropriate areas, and my RN is documenting a full health assessment for the clients in order to be able to create a care plan when we get back to the office that the caregivers will follow when they're on shift.
Yeah, because in Arkansas, actually, your state license requires you to have an RN. So there's a lot of nationwide, it's hit or miss on if it's an RN directed care plan. I'm a little indifferent personally on how that's done, but in the state of Arkansas, you do have an RN doing it, which is great. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we walk the family through the rest of the onboarding paperwork. We either complete it there with them if that's what they want, or we can leave it and I just go through everything so that we are setting the right expectations on what their care is going to look like. We go through any additional concerns and questions that they might have, and after the paperwork is completed, I usually excuse myself and our RN stays and digs deeper into that full health assessment. And then she walks through the living quarters to look for fall risks and completes a full home assessment as well. That's where we're making suggestions for grab bars or different transitions, if there is any tripping hazards, if we have a fall risk, things like that.
So what I'm hearing is we don't just do the human body assessment. We do a full-blown environmental assessment to ensure the safety of our seniors, and then also to educate our caregivers, right? Because they need to know the picture that they're walking into as well.
So yeah, the whole purpose is for the client to age in place. So we want to make sure that their residence where they are living is conducive of them continuing to age.
All right. Well, thank you, Natalie. And so now the next question is, you probably go into, I mean, personally, me, not so much, but I'm sure you go in and, like you said, 9 times out of 10, the senior is familiar with why you're there to talk to them about senior in-home care. Me personally, I've walked into many situations, and along with my partner, Jared Evidich, who has probably the funniest story and sad story at the same time of a situation where he walked into a house with the senior not knowing that we were there to discuss in-home care, in which we immediately went into that house, failure to thrive. And I would say we brought on 0% of any client who was not informed of why an in-home care provider was walking into their door. Have you ever experienced that yet in your 3 years of business?
We have had an experience where the family member alluded to the point that she would be there, and my RN and I show up, and the potential client had no idea who we were, why we were knocking on her door. And when we called the family member, she said, "I'm out of town. I'm not going to be there. I thought you guys could convince mom that she needed the care." And it did not work out.
Although we are great salespeople here at A Place at Home with a genuine heart on taking care of somebody. How did that turn out for you? You just said?
It did not turn out. No, but we experience pushback even if they know we're coming, because aging's difficult. Most have had fully functioning adult lives, and they feel as if we're coming into the home that they are losing their independence, and they don't even want to admit that they need that assistance for just everyday activities. Pushback comes in all forms. Mostly we see it come from pride, fear of strangers entering the home, fear of change of their routine, fear of the loss of their independence, and being stubborn. And then even the most is denial that they need help at all. It's hard to get to that acceptance stage that they will need help or do need it at that time.
Absolutely. And there's other things, not just in care too. And we'll talk about this a little bit before we get in to the advice of Natalie Watts and how to approach that conversation. And I got some tips as well I'll talk about, but taking keys away, right? That's one of the hardest conversations to talk to a senior about, is driving, right? And again, we can't take those keys away. So hopefully with keys and care itself and change and even potentially moving into assisted living, these are all hard conversations. So let's jump right into it. What is the best approach in your mind on having, as a family member, talking to mom or dad or a loved one on receiving in-home care?
So I'm going to back up a step and just start with, when we receive those initial calls from families, most of the time they are in crisis mode. Something happened, they need us, a fall just happened, or a discharge of the client is coming up from a hospital or rehab. They're not able to be there to care for them, and they just need that reassurance that we're here to partner with them for the care of their loved ones. So once we're able to calm them down and, reassure them that they called the right place and we are going to help be part of the solution, then we can get into, okay, we know you are needing this. Does mom, dad, your loved one, do they accept that we are going to come in and help? So when you get to that stage, acceptance is huge on the client's part for our services to even work out. If the client accepts a family member's care, but is discouraged in having someone else come in, some outside care, we tell the family, or we suggest to the family that they position the conversation in the way that we are coming in to help them as the primary caregiver, and relay that to mom or dad. I need the help to help best take care of you. I can't be here all of the time. I tell the story that a person can raise multiple kids all by themselves, no problem. But in helping a senior, it takes up to 3 people. One person cannot do it by themselves without getting burned out. And that's the worst thing that can happen. So most loved ones don't want to be that burden on their family members. So if you approach the conversation that way, that we're there to help the primary caregiver, give them some relief so that they can be the best they can be while they're on shift, then that helps. We also have had to have several conversations with talking the client through the what ifs. Mom, what if you fall again and I'm not here? You're going to wind up back in the hospital, back in rehab. It could be weeks before you're home in your comfortable dwelling. And even if you are able to come home at that point, not to scare them, but to thoroughly talk through the what ifs so they can look into the future. And, then we come back and offer our preventative measures of being there here and now. And that doesn't sound so intrusive.
Absolutely. You just nailed it earlier, and then you just said it again today or a second ago. Is unfortunately in-home care, from again the 10 years I've been doing it and the 3 that you've been doing it, is a response to crisis service almost. Yeah, we do companionship and people are proactive at it. That's probably one of the harder conversations, to get someone who has never had an incident to receive it, because they're like, nothing's wrong with me, right? And you have that mindset. So it usually takes an episode or an incident to trigger mom or dad opening their, and it's sad to see. It's very sad to see. Another thing that I heard you touch base on was the loved ones, married couples, right? If it was me and my spouse, I'm 230 pounds. Hopefully I'm not 230 pounds when I'm 90 years old. But if I were to need care, my wife's 110, 115, and as a 90-year-old lady, she'll probably be smaller than that. To ask her to take care of me is it would wear and tear on her, right? Especially when you have Alzheimer's or dementia come in. I think the statistics show, and I don't have the exact statistic that in front of me, but that majority of the primary caregivers, the loved one who lives with the elderly loved one, like the husband or spouse of someone with Alzheimer's, usually declines faster than the one with Alzheimer's or dementia itself, because of the stress and burden it puts on your life. So again, educating them and making it about us as the family members not being able to adequately take care of you is one of the best approaches. And then the third thing, and I'll reiterate, is painting the picture. I call it the god awful truth, right? And here's the thing, is that when I would go in, I almost had like you're a little bit better than I am. I had like a business meeting, right? That's how I treat everything. I would sit down and I would say, what are your goals, right? Do you want to stay in this house long? How long do you want to stay in this house? Are you open-minded to assisted living? If you are, Place Home can help you do that. We'll take you on tours with our placement services. But if your goal is to stay at home, let's talk about what that looks like. If you don't have care in place, your daughter doing everything that you just said, right? Your daughter is not able to be here. Your husband is not physically capable of doing this every day. So what's going to happen is eventually you're going to have an episode where you end up in the hospital, and then you paint that picture. Then after hospital, if you can't come home, you're going to go into rehab. Have you ever been into a nursing home? No, I've never been into a nursing home. Well, that's where you go into the facility, the home, right? Now you can leave that home, but it could take 30 days, 90 days. I've seen people there for a year rehabbing due to something that they could have prevented in the first place by having our services. Again, I don't want to be a scare tactic here, but it's painting the god awful truth. And in that year, you're going to spend thousands of dollars. It's going to be super stressful for you, your family, and ultimately you might not be able to come back home. I'm just keeping it real, right? You may not ever get better. And if you're not getting better in that rehab time, during that process, Medicare stops paying it. One thing that a lot of people don't know, and you know this, is that if you stop progressing in your rehabilitation, Medicare says that's it. There's nothing more we can do for it, and it's done. And now you go into privately paying. So if it's a matter of cost, because cost can be some concern of seniors, I'm sure you've heard of that. Now let's talk about private paying for PTO and for physical therapy and rehab to try to get better. And then you might have to stay in the long-term care facility where you're talking $9,000, $10,000, $12,000 a month and away from your home. So again, I don't want to paint the scary picture, but that's the god awful truth of what can happen, right? And usually that to me, in my experience, has worked for family members when they involve us in that conversation. But the family member needs to have that conversation before bringing us in. And we are always there. You can always call one of our offices. We have 25 locations nationwide. All of our owners know this process, right, Natalie? You could always call us and ask, how would you have this conversation? Have the conversation and then come back to us. But bringing us into the conversation initially, that's like an intervention for someone who doesn't want help. It's just not gonna work to everyone's benefit. So thanks, Natalie. Do you have any more to add before I go to the next one?
No.
All right. What are some do's and don'ts when having the conversation? We kind of put it out there, but what are some do's and don't do's when having the conversation?
So a do would be wait for the right time to have the conversation, for the time that the potential client is well rested, they're calm. It's not at the end of the day when you're rushing to fix dinner and put kids to bed, or not, just a nice, calm time period. And also definitely let the client, if they are able, be part of the decision of bringing in care. It's so important to give the client that sense of control. It's their future, and that helps significantly, and it might take more than one conversation. So bring it up early. Don't delay the conversation no matter what. No matter how independent a person was in their younger years, at some point, we all need help. So definitely don't delay in the conversation. When you're talking with them, treat them and the conversation with compassion and respect. This is a life-changing event for them, and they need to feel that control over their life. They're losing so many other things, their abilities, their independence, and it helps to just say, Mom, just laying out possibilities here, and know that you're not going to get that consent in that first conversation, or it is very rare for them to be like, yep, I volunteer, I'm good, bring a stranger into the house to help take care of me. Doesn't usually go that way. But don't force it or make them feel like their independence is coming to an end quickly, or that they are a burden on that loved one.
Absolutely. And I would reiterate that too. To go back to your point, and just to give it an example, in any situation, if you ever go at somebody asking them to do a life-altering event during a high-stress time, I got 3 kids, 7, 5, and 2. If it's 7 p.m. at night and all of a sudden when it's bedtime, my kids are going chaos, and I say, hey, Janet, do you care if I go mow the yard right now? No, absolutely not, right? It's just, probably a bad example, but you see what I'm saying. So calm situation. And I would reiterate, sit down together as a family. Don't be doing other things. Like just say, hey, it's almost like calling a family meeting. Let's have a little quick powwow. I want to talk to you about some things we've been thinking about and get your thoughts on it, right? What's another do? Any more?
I named the big ones.
Okay. I have a piece of advice that you can try as well. I don't know if you've ever done this, but involve the physician.
That is a good one as well, so that there is a professional being in there, not just the family trying to convince, their loved one that they need the care. But we stand in as that professional part, but involving the doctor so they can explain what's going on. There's always that trust there with a medical professional. I agree with that one.
Yeah, I think if you Google most trusted profession, I think physician is in the top 5. Because these seniors have been with these physicians, especially when you're in your 80s or 90s. You've been with that same physician for a very, very long time, right? Unless they retire. And them having the conversation to say, hey, maybe you should think about this. And that's as an agency, that's who we go out and talk to and say, if you ever have any patients who may need extra care to keep them out of the hospital, we'd love to take care of them, right? That's a referral source of ours as a business. But involve them. If I was a family member, I would call and talk to them at the next visit and see if you can get them on board, and that sometimes eases the pain as well. And then the biggest don't for me is, and I've said it 50 times over, is don't try to hide it. Don't try to surprise them. And this is where I want to share a story of my partner Jared when he went we used to wear a suit and tie. I'm in a shirt today, a little bit relaxed, but shirt and tie to go and visit a family member. And when he got there, opened the door, and the family said, hey, Mom thinks the plumber's here. And when you come in, we want you to talk about in-home care. And Jared's immediate reaction was, why the plumber? And where are we having this meeting? Do you want to meet in the bathroom, or how do we want to do this? And this was an old veteran, and Jared, he's on here watching this. He can comment if I'm getting it wrong. But this guy was an old veteran, stubborn guy. Immediately said, get out of my house. Get out of my house. Because you can't surprise somebody with something like this. So if there's anything that I want to reiterate on here, have the conversation prior to involving the agency. Even if you've had a mini conversation involving that agency, you're setting that agency up to fail. Even if you really like Natalie or myself, we're probably not going to be able to take the case, primarily because your mom's going to say, this is that company that tried to collude with my fam. I'm going to pick my own company, right? And it starts off bitter. So definitely have that conversation before. Let's see. I have a question that popped up. Have you ever come across a very physical individual with anyone but me? No other place would take him in because of how physical he was. Do you have a plan to avoid this? So I'm guessing the question is, have we ever taken on someone who has been physical, or basically physical, and how do we have a plan to avoid it? I think that's a conversation on a different day, but to be quickly, there are different things that we'd have to do during that eval, right? We would have to assess if we can take them on and our caregiver is in a safe position. In a case where someone was wanting to stay at home and may be aggressive with caregivers, I would say 9 times out of 10, we'd probably recommend a facility, not because we want to, but we do have to think of our employees' well-being as well. Natalie, you have anything to add on to that?
We've had that situation come up a couple of times, and it goes back to matching the right caregiver, not for intimidation, but we're lucky enough to have like 5 male caregivers, and they love our veterans. Sometimes you have veterans with PTSD, and they get a little agitated and can get aggressive and physical. Two of our cases, it just paired so well with that male caregiver. They were able to really keep them even keeled, redirect, and keep both parties safe, the client themselves and as well as himself. So it worked. In one case, it did not, and we suggested going for a psych evaluation and re-looking at all the different medications because they thought it was medicated based. So, and then they ended up going into a community that was better suited for him because we just were not safe in that environment.
Yeah, it's tough to see, especially when it's dementia-related Alzheimer's, because it's really not their fault, right? It was the man that was and the man that is now. So last question I have here. Okay, so keeping this picture rolling, we find the families had the conversation. The mother is on board to allow somebody. What as an agency would you suggest to anyone in in-home care who starts a business like this? How do you set yourself up for success? Because now you're going into an individual who's a little reluctant. How do you set yourself up for success with that client going forward so that they see the value in your service and don't immediately cancel after day 1 or 2?
So you said it in the beginning. You paint that picture as pretty or as awful as it could possibly be. I realized very early on that honesty and transparency are crucial for forming that trust and bond and partnership with the family in order for us to be able to deliver the best care possible. So during that family consult, we are always very transparent with them. We paint that picture. We let them know up front. We don't bat 1,000, but we will make every possible effort to make sure your loved one is getting the care that they need. We will send our office staff out to substitute for a call out until we can find someone else to get there. We try to go above and beyond and put that client first. We let them know that we match our clients based on their skill set, their personalities, and their availability. We suggest a consistent schedule so that they can always have the same caregivers week to week to form that bond so that they are more pleased with care and it is consistent care for them. We let the family know that these are very difficult times that we're in right now. There is a nationwide caregiver shortage. And we explain that most caregivers fall into that low income bracket. They've got kids. They don't have brand new cars. Life happens. There will be call outs. We try to cover as much as we possibly can, but we partner with the family and ask them, we need a family, a friend, a neighbor to call in those for a backup in those instances. We're all in this together. We're trying to do the best that we can, and it should only be temporary, but life does happen. And if you paint that and set that expectation and paint that picture so they know how you're going to handle when things start breaking down, they trust you and they know that we are doing what's best for, or trying to do what's best for the caregiver client at that time. And we will work through it together one way or another.
Absolutely. Complete transparency. I mean, that's what I hear you saying. And painting the picture, I used to compete against a lot of agencies in the Omaha, Nebraska market. And I would be very upfront with, you might not have the same person. If we're starting tomorrow, the next day might not be the same person. We're going to do the same. We're going to do the best that we can to even that out, but also talking about scheduling, right? If you're talking to me as a family member and you say you want 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening, 7 days a week, and I want the same person, that's not going to happen. I mean, you're not going to find someone who wants to come in for 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. So just being 100% transparent and painting the picture on what care looks like going forward based on their schedule and based on our processes. And you're absolutely right. Matching the caregiver is right. I used to always compare us to a dating service, right or wrong on how to do that. But we're going to try to find you the best person that fits your care needs and your personality that we feel is a match. Are we 100%? I like to say I'm right all the time. My wife would tell you I'm not, and I'm not right all the time. But we will do our best to find the best person, and we have caregivers. Even in this time of what they call labor shortage, we can find you somebody who will match. And if we can't, well, then we will make I would even make a recommendation to another agency, because at the end of the day, our goal, your goal, is to make sure that you have the best care that fits the client's individual needs, right?
That's right.
All right. We're out of time, but I have one more question, and we could throw this in here. In closing, Natalie, been doing this for a few years now. I remember when you started, and now you're one of the top agencies in customer service in the nation. Another plug there again. And you have grown exponentially over your first couple years. What's the most, I put the question as what's your favorite part about the family consultation, but I'm going to throw that out here and throw you a curveball. What is your favorite thing about this business, this industry? What's the number one thing that you can leave people watching this on this industry?
My favorite thing is, let's see, it's being able to partner with the family. It takes a village, right? So partnering with the family and the client to be a part of the solution. I say that every day to my team. When you're answering that phone, be a part of the solution. Everyone's calling, looking for us to help solve a problem that they're dealing with. Be a part of that solution for them. Be there for them. And that's how we're making the biggest impact in the Little Rock area.
Absolutely. This is not, I always like to say when we look for new franchise owners, is we're problem solvers. If there's one skill set that I have that I think I've gained out of this business, is problem solving. I will find the answer. I will find it. As your coach and mentor, I think you know that. We will find that dadgum answer. It just might take a while. But at the end of the day, it has to be safe for you, the family, and it has to be ethical. And it has to follow our values of care, compassion, accountable, respectful, and ethical. And that solution will pan out. So, Natalie, I want to thank you for joining me today. Next week, I'm going to introduce next Tuesday, we're actually going to meet with Adam and Trista Johnson of A Place at Home at the Woodlands, who you've mentored personally and helped out. And this actually goes to what you did for them a couple months ago when Adam was in a big pinch and I wasn't available. I think I was at dinner or something like that. And he called you and you answered immediately. I thank you for doing my job. But that is the sense of community that we're trying to build here with our franchise partners and owners. And so what better talking point next week? We're going to talk about what are the benefits of being with a franchise community. And Adam and Trista Johnson are going to talk to us about their experience and why they feel it's a huge value of being in a franchise family. So thanks, Natalie. And
thanks for having me.
Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.